put together. Each perspective in view. I am me, I am you. Justice, fear, and fire. Separate but together. Each perspective in view. I am me, I am you. I am you. I am me, I am you. I am me, I am you.
Attention citizens. Please commence routine 1399. Proceed instantly to the center. Thank you. I am me, I am you. I am you. I am me, I am you. Justice, earth, and fire. Separate but together. Each perspective in view. I am me, I am you. Justice, earth, and fire. Separate but together. Each perspective in view. I am me, I am you. I am you. I am me, I am you.
Attention citizens. Please transfer to 1399. Proceed instantly to the center. Thank you. Attention citizens. Please transfer to 1399. Proceed instantly to the center. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. Obviously, most of you have come from Moo, so you know our guest Moo here. But yes, welcome, and thank you for coming, Moo.
Oh my gosh, no problem at all. I'm so excited to be here, Poe. Hello, guys.
Truly,
hello, everyone.
very excited. So, for those of you who may not know, who are new to the channel, I'm Poe. I don't have a flashy intro or anything. I used to, and then I changed my lore, and I never freaking came up with another greeting, and so I just don't worry about it. So, welcome. I'm somewhere between an eldritch being and an AI. So,
Ooh.
how's it going? Goom, Hank, Scobalts, good to see you all. I saw June, Meow, all up in the starting screen. Spaghetto, welcome. Thanks for coming by and saying hi. So yeah, I mean, we're pretty much, I guess, just gonna get right into it. Kind of our goal today was mostly just kind of a get to know you opportunity for the two of us, because we both kind of arbitrarily came across each other in Twitter, whatever, and then
Somewhere.
jumped on streams, and we were both like, you know what, that's somebody I can vibe with. So it was very fortuitous that we've kind of just stumbled across each other, and we haven't really sat down and chatted. So this is kind of our chance to do so, along with the rest of chat. You guys can all come along.
Yay! I'm very excited to be here.
So the obvious, yeah. Goom has ID'd it of, this is the largest juxtaposition of styles in all of like possible existence. We are so different in style.
So different
that there's no missing that. But despite that, I think we actually have a decent amount in common in other ways.
Yes, totally. I agree. As content creators, I think there's a lot we can resonate with each other, but it is very funny to see it on screen now and be like, we are so different. It's also just so cool. Your model is so dynamic. I'm so obsessed with the fact that you can move your hands.
That was a pretty big deal when I got that capability, because it was, that's one of the constant struggles as a VTuber, right? Is trying to get enough like interest in movement, right? Like, you see a lot of the 2D, the live 2D stuff ends up doing that through like the wild ass jiggle physics, right? Like, some of that stuff is so out there. But long ago with 3D tracking, there are now more options, but long ago it wasn't really an option. So you very stiff and still, which has informed a lot of how my design has developed, because I was like, I have to get some kind of visual interest that's not wild ass jiggle physics, because I can't pull that off.
Yes.
And so, that has over time spawned all this till the eventual big advantage of 3D being the hand tracking, which very important for me. I do a lot of talking with my hands. I don't play up the hands for stream. That's just how much I freaking wave my hands around. So
it's awesome though.
I really needed the hand tracking, because I'd be like, even before I had it, I'd be out here like waving my arms around, and I'm like, nobody can see this. This isn't doing anybody any good.
That's totally fair. I find I do it sometimes in stream, and I'm always just like, hey, I'm giving you quotation marks right now or something.
Yeah, it's like you have to listen for my fingers. They're there, I promise. You just
hear that
listen.
Little that's them.
You'll hear them.
Oh, that's goodness. Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad to be here, Poe. I'm so excited to be on your stream.
Yeah.
Your intro music is banging, man.
Thank you. The music, I mean, the nice thing about the music is, of course, that there's kind of a clear musical style that goes along with this aesthetic, right? So it's it's on point. And so Monster Cat is who I use the music from, and they have a really good content creator, like, I guess you could call it package. Like, it's a monthly fee, and you just get access to like 90% of their music. There's a few things that are like
cool
collaborated with particular artists that don't want it on there, but you can just use it for content creation. and you just attach them to like your YouTube channel, and then they never flag your stuff for any kind of copyright or anything. You just smooth sailing. It was so nice when I got that.
That's so excellent. It took me forever to figure out how to do it with who is it? It's that live lo-fi channel always, and you can do the same with that. And I remember figuring that out and being like, oh, this could be so easy. But right now I just use some MP3s I've bought that I put in the background.
Yeah, and see that's what I started with. And I liked them well enough. I was actually pleased with the MP3s I got, but the goddamn company, every video would be like, hey, you're using our music. And I was like, I bought this.
Are you serious?
And every time I would have to go in and I would have to be like, dispute the claim. Here's my license ID that I got from paying for the goddamn MP3s. And it's just like such a pain in my ass every time. So I was like, I'm not doing it anymore. I didn't pay that much for them, so it wasn't like that painful for me to do, but I was just like, what a pain in my ass. Run your company better, guys. Jesus.
Totally. Yeah, that's so annoying. Like, why would you pay for it if it's going to be such a pain? Thankfully, I bought from, I think I saw you had stuff from her in your description one time, but Freya Amari.
Ooh, she kills it, man. My logo actually is done by Freya. My animated logo up there was done by Freya, yeah. And actually, pieces of my background for stream are still done by Freya, so she's still hanging out in my credits. This background is only sort of done by her because I do weird stuff with my background. I actually mesh videos together in OBS to make this. This is actually a combination of 2 videos. Yeah,
crazy, so cool. Also, Spaghetto, I see your comment, and that's very funny. The very different vibes we have.
It's true. You know, I suppose now's as good a time we're talking about sort of the juxtaposition of our styles. So something that I had been considering doing for just maybe stream content or things down the line. So one of the things about my model is I have a channel mascot, and they're called the Orbits or Bits or bit, really whatever people want to call them, but they're these little guys that are little spheres with polyhedra.
I was just going to ask.
I have one on the shoulder too. Technically, the model is mostly consisting of them, honestly, if you look. And so something that I've been thinking about doing was making versions of them that are sort of themed after like different VTubers as just kind of like a fan little minimalist bitlet guys to, I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I thought that's kind of a potentially amusing, stream idea. Like, hey, let's make some little bits themed after various doodads.
People. That's cool.
Yeah. And so, in commemoration of our thing, I actually made one of you. I'd call it a gift, except you have literally no way of utilizing it.
Really?
I do have one. The thing is that it was actually very difficult because, our designs are so different. Our design language is just like so opposite. Like you're all, muted colors, soft edges, comfort, and then I'm over here full saturation, controlled chaos, and sharp points. Like literally visual fatigue is my freaking name of the game. But
you did, design language. That's the right word I was looking for. Like, what is it that we've done so different? It's just everything.
It's the design language. But yeah, so I did make a little one. It's not really complete. I didn't add physics to it, but I have a little one here. Let's see if I can zoom in.
This is the coolest, most wonderful gift I could have ever imagined.
So here, can we a little guy that matches-ish. It was actually kind of hard to find particular note points. I can get a little closer. Of your design that like works in my language. But yeah, so you can see the sphere. We've got little horn guys on the sphere. The little wings are the same color, close-ish to your ears as well. Diamonds from your little necklace, right? And then the mushroom is actually made of particles, by the way.
Oh, this is amazing!
You can see it drifting down. And because I wanted it to do something, it actually tracks with my head, is why it turns angles. It's actually matching my head angle, is what it's doing currently.
Coolest thing. But I didn't expect a gift like this. This is amazing.
Just a little moo bit. essentially.
Moobit. I'm a Moobit now. Oh my gosh, I
Yeah,
love
so
this so
that's-
much.
So that's now the first little piece of my potential collection of VTuber bits.
I love
yeah.
it. Oh, I'm so honored to be the first. This is so cool, Poe. Man, this is so amazing. I'm so jealous that you're an artist because every single day, like since I got into VTubing, I've been like, I wish I could be an artist because I have these things in my head and I have no way to make them
Yeah.
real.
Yes.
And like the creative things you can do, that's amazing.
So to be fair, actually, before I started this, I was not an artist. The reason that I at this point would say that I am an artist is because I have made this model, and I guess technically I was commissioned once and I made my sister's model. So like I've been paid to make something, which I'm like, all right, well, no arguing about the artist thing now.
Poe, even if you just made your own model, this is insane what you've done.
Yeah.
can't
So like
even-
I've always been creative, right? Like done various music in my youth, played D&D, come up with all kinds of creative things, full of ideas, right? But I didn't really have a viable means to communicate those ideas that I had into something. Much like what you say, right? Like that's constantly the challenge.
Yes.
And so then it wasn't really until this model that I'm like, yeah, all right. I have found a very specific niche artistry that I can kind of tackle and do, and it's this sort of weird stuff. And especially because the way I make my model is quite unique. It's actually not
you told me it was like kind of Vroid Studio, but not, did you say?
Yes. So the thing about my model is I didn't do the modeling, so to speak, because I don't really use Blender very well. I did use Blender to make all of the individual pieces, right? Like they are modeled through Blender, and I did it, but they're very simple, right? They're basic. They were essentially mathematically done because they're, for the most part, regular shapes, right?
I was gonna say, did you like generate these like as just like shapes and then symmetrically done or something?
Essentially, there's a plugin for Blender that allows you to make the is it the Archimedean solids? Whatever.
Okay.
It's one of the mathematician solids. I don't actually remember which one it is right now. And they're the sort of regular shapes, and then you can very simply use another Blender like modifier to give it wireframe, and so that gives it the two piece. There's the borders, which are the wireframe, and then the solids themselves. And so I made all of those. The platonic solids. Meow's got my back. Or Rex,
romantic.
depending if you go by that.
Just kidding.
Yes. So juxtaposed with the romantic solids. Yeah, it's the platonic solids.
The ones that kiss in the middle, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Technically, Scobolts, I did not press the button. I suppose I should. I have a show off model camera button that I guess I should probably run through. Where is it? There it is, model demo. So it just basically, shows the complete thing of the model and then runs through a few camera motions.
So
to
are
capture all
your
of it.
legs like just the like poof at the bottom? You don't have like two separate. Okay, cool.
I do not have legs. Because I don't need
You don't
legs.
need them. Yeah, you live in the AI world. Oh,
yeah.
Your little bitty head.
Yeah.
So cool.
So the I made those in Blender, but that's like kind of it. I originally made a Vroid model. I guess at this point it might be worthwhile to pull up I have a model archive,
cool.
a museum of my old models.
Oh yes. Sorry guys, this is the thing I most want to know about Poe is like when I saw them, I was like, wow, look at all this.
I'm gonna have to, be a lot more attentive in asking you questions, because the problem is once I start talking about my model, I do not shut the hell up, because I really
It's okay, because you know what, we can switch to my model history after this, and it's very short.
Yeah. We can get back to then talking about your design stuff. Okay, let me find my model.
Did you always know you were aiming for this AI feel? I haven't seen it.
Yes. So the AI feel was always sort of in the plan. Where is it? Old Model Museum. There it is. But the start was quite different because of simply I had very limited capabilities, essentially. The first model I made was the first time I had ever opened up Vroid Studio, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
I just took a weekend, I sat down, I tried to make what I could out of, you know, basic toggling of it, and then pulling in a few free assets from Booth.
Yep. You're
which-
so
which
strong
gives you some
because
stuff.
I also did that at first, and I was like, oh, this is a lot.
Yeah, and so I sort of manipulated a little bit and got something that worked out of it. Let's see. And it was, you know, it was fine. It kind of makes me a little cringe to look at it now because it's so sort of out of what I can now do.
Right, but you know what? It was the start. And you know, it's
It
crazy
was
because
the start.
even I was thinking about how, like, at the beginning, I felt like everything had to be so perfect. And then every time, oh my goodness, this
But yeah,
feels
so
really cool
this-
already.
This is the first model that I made. You can kind of see, I always had the sort of faded out legs and, in this case, more arms because I couldn't use my arms at the time. And so I
Right.
avoided having to make better sort of textures or art for arms and legs by fading it out because I was like, I can't freaking deal with that.
Don't even do anything.
Because I'm not a traditional artist. I can't actually do like the textures very well. I can do a little bit, but that's not really where my skill set lies.
Totally.
And so yeah, so this was the first one. It was also this was in Vroid when it was in beta, which is why you can kind of see that the newer ones have much more refined like facial features and stuff. Like this guy looks like he's got a freaking potato for a face, honestly.
That's fair.
But yeah, so this was the old one, and I had a little more of a design language of like circuit tracing. You can kind of see
Yes.
a little bit at the top of the head. Like that was sort of the old design language that carried on for several models. So that was the first one that I made, and I ran on that for like 6 months. Actually, it might actually be my longest running single model, which is funny because I
Okay.
just accelerated how much I would change. So then,
Right. Well, I mean, if you have the skill to do it yourself, like,
yeah,
hard
right.
not to, isn't it?
Yeah, extremely. And so then eventually, so this is then the second one. This one very close to the first, obviously. This was done when Vroid actually released properly. So you can see the face is improved quite a bit in this one. Shapes are a little better, a little more
dimension.
stuff on the face, and all of this. This face is actually very close to the face shape that I still use. Very little has changed from that. And so yeah, so that was the main impetus for that. Then the third one was actually a pretty sizable change. And this one is when I actually really started to learn how to accomplish some specific tasks that I was trying to do.
Oh, cool. And this is where you start getting your see-through and your fractal feels.
Yes. So this is where some of that. So this is what I called the HD texture update because I realized now utilizing Unity, I could do like higher resolution textures for the body because Vroid textures are just too low resolution from the get-go for specifically the body because it's stretching pixels across a very large surface and they end up really non-distinct and it's quite unfortunate, which oddly enough is also my most viewed long-form video of talking about how to use higher resolution textures. I made a video out of it and it's my highest viewed, and it's interesting because it keeps getting more views in a linear fashion after like a year and a half. It just keeps like 3 a week. Somebody
It's kind of
finds that
amazing, though.
because they're just like, I need to
is.
know this specific thing, and I think I am the foremost expert. I'm the only one on YouTube who explained it.
That's hilarious. I mean, that's great though. Honestly, I could see it sounds like your content would make sense for this. Like, at least as far as like the design stuff goes, that you'll be the kind to just like provide a video that will keep on giving, you know?
Yeah, the problem is, of course, that only 2 people on the planet care about that every week, which doesn't
Right.
exactly get me a whole lot of views.
It's a slow linear growth.
but yes, like, you know, they're there. Yeah, so this introduced a lot of the sort of shape. I also had prepped because I was planning on getting hand tracking. I didn't have it yet. And so I added the hands back in because
Cool.
you know, plan to start flapping my hands around.
Like those fingy tips. Very cool.
Yeah. And then I kind of started accelerating in what can I now do, because the next one I switched to the model type from what is a VRM file type, which is what comes out of Vroid, and converted it to a VSF avatar, which is a type that is enabled through the VC Face software that runs the application. They have a dev tool as well, which is a plugin for Unity that allows you to make VSF avatars. And what that does is it converts it from like a sort of standardized, simple VRM, which I think is actually like a JR, just like a JSON file with just like piles of information, essentially like a text file, into an actual Unity package, so you can start utilizing Unity features. And so the next one that I picked up was the next thing I made. And as with all of my designs, actually, they don't really work as well in still images because all of my stuff is kind of designed around having motion. So what you don't notice is that this model, a lot of those things are actually videos embedded in the textures.
Whoa!
So all of those windows
Constantly moving?
Yes, they're full videos. They would move. So the problem is that I did not realize at the time. This was probably my shortest lived model because all of those videos, by being textures, have to go into your video RAM upon loading the model.
I was gonna say, is this exhausting for your PC?
Yes, this model took up like 3 to 4 gigs of video memory.
Oh my god!
You know, there are still video cards floating around that only have like 8 gigs of video memory. So I was just annihilating video cards with this, and I was like, well, I need to redesign.
Right. And you know what I was gonna say is kind of interesting too, though, is I can also see like when you've dropped things and brought them back, like you have your original red eye dashes again, but they're gone in this model, which is interesting.
Well, actually, okay, so to be fair, this is using several toggles that I don't currently have. I do actually, so this is using what I'd called overclock mode, which is I convert to red and you know, bring up the screens, bring up the orb, all of that, which I can actually still do, which is to change colors to the overclock colors. So those still exist, actually. You can see, you know, now I've got the same cyan eyes.
Wow. Yes.
But anyway, the eyebrows are in fact still the same eyebrows. The eyebrows and the eyeliners actually have maintained the entire time because they're just like perfect. And I can't come up with a better idea.
I kind of agree. I think they're really interesting. And you know what? You've kind of been able to escape, you know, not the curse, but, you know, just because often masculine design is so much less extravagant than feminine design. Like,
it's
just
true.
The concept of your model like adds to so many cool things. I love how you've done the eyes.
Yeah.
As Meow says, it takes work to get the perfect eyeliner.
Hey, and you know, the only change that those underwent was when I went to the high definition textures, and I did make them again, but cleaner. And Scobolt's over there has commented on the orb, so I'll get to the orb later because that actually is something that I had added that actually ties into essentially the lore of the character, because I have shifted the lore largely based on how I have constructed it. And Scobolt's has been here for a very, very long time. Not quite from the beginning. Nobody is here from the beginning because I was a nobody with no viewers for a long time.
But weren't we all?
Yeah. So from here, I went to this next one, and this one is very similar, but I had cut out essentially all of the video stuff, except for one. I kept the one in the chest. This one is I started utilizing additional objects in Unity, so you can see some of the shoulder piping is no longer textures on the body, because I didn't like the way those sort of stretched and squashed with movement, and it just looked very fuzzy and indistinct. So I started extracting them, and you know, looking back, it's like you can see each step that eventually got me to where I am, because right, like now I don't have a body at all, and it's all the extracted stuff.
Yeah. Oh, so cool though. Like it's really cool. It's so interesting to see the iterations and see how you got anyway. I'm curious to see which model is the one that brought us to where you are now, where you've sort of it's more about what you've
Yeah,
excluded almost.
we are very, very close. The next one, actually, there's actually kind of an intermediary one, because this one didn't quite yet have particles, and then shortly thereafter, I added particles. But you can't quite, like, they're not present there. And it doesn't really matter, because you can't see them when they're, not in motion anyway.
Right.
So the next one, depending on how you view it, was my sort of like... I guess it's the third quote-unquote model. The next one, I redesigned the model from the ground up. I re-exported from Vroid and started again, because with this one, the Unity package was becoming absolute chaos, because I had added things, I had experimented on things were just like left to decay and be still attached to the model, and like it was just absolute chaos. And so I started ground up, and this was last October. And this one I had put more work probably than maybe all of the other ones combined. This was like probably 100+ hours to craft this next model, which was this one. And you can see that this one was the big step
Yes.
that got us to the sort of intermediary before where we are now.
Yes.
The hands are actually still the same.
Okay, cool. The hands are the most intricate too, so I can see.
Yeah.
You could just keep them.
Interestingly, this model was initially sort of devised around the idea for the hands. So the first thing that I had an idea for, which I thought I could make work, was these. Here, let me zoom in a little bit on it. Were these? Oh, I need this hand. The way these are like crossing armor plates almost of my fingertips. And I was like, you know what? I think I can make that work. And so I did that. And then I was like, well, what does the rest of the model look like if your fingers look like that? And it kind of just extrapolated into more polyhedral shapes, stretching into the rest of the model.
Amazing. It's very cool.
And so, from there, we got to this. It was a little more simple in a lot of ways. I mean, it just took a lot of time to set up, honestly. Like, a huge amount of it was just tremendous effort to get it to where it was. Because functionally what this is, was you take a Vroid model, you strip the skin off of it, and then what you're left with is an invisible skeleton. And on that invisible skeleton, you hang the other models, the polyhedral models, kind of like you would hang something on a Christmas tree. And then they follow the bones as they move. And that's essentially... So this is not really a Vroid model anymore, but it does still have Vroid bones.
Right.
So that's one of the major reasons that I say my modeling is really unusual and unique, because I don't model in Blender, I don't model in Vroid, I kind of model in Unity, which I don't think anybody else does.
This is so interesting, Poe. This is crazy how you've made this. I mean, I can't imagine, because I only use one. Like, I literally even refuse. I've seen, what is it? There's that new thing. Is it VC Face you can add on to VTube Studio? And I refuse. I was like, oh, I'm never even gonna look into that, because that is too much effort for me. And this is you've done 3 and you just designed it yourself. This is so cool. So is this the model before now?
This is, yes, the immediately previous model to what it is now. As you can see, most of the shapes are the same, and then essentially I just started refining what I wanted to do. So you can see the face, I eventually extracted all of the circuit board print style. I kind of removed that as a style. We moved to more heavy polyhedrons. I felt like a lot of these flat surfaces were just a little too plain, so we got to putting holes in things in places and making it a little more complicated. A huge part of the change that went from here to where we are now is a concept that I didn't know what to do, because this one actually had no jiggle or movement physics at all. Now let me shrinky dink this guy. He doesn't need to be so big. Come on. He'll just be over here. So he didn't have any jiggling. He had animation like of stuff, but now you can see like my antenna on this side jiggles, my guy up here jiggles.
Yes.
And that was made possible because so there's spring bones. That's a thing that you can add to VRMs. The problem with simple spring bones is if you child a new object to it, which is kind of what you typically do with the bones, like you just put a shape as a child and then now it moves with it. The problem is if you do that with a spring bone, it actually stretches because it's trying to be like hair, right? So a lot of model hair is these spring bones, and so they're supposed to stay contiguous. Even in motion, they keep the smooth curve all connected. And so if you child something, it stretches like that, and then all of my nice straight edges turn into jello, and it looks ridiculous. But there's a concept in Unity called a parent constraint, which then allows you to limit which movements it's taking from a particular parent, which, for example, is exactly how I can tie this whole like move bit specifically to the rotation of my head while it's maintaining its position on the hand. And so that was an enormous discovery, which went into making a lot of things work.
Wow. Okay,
But yeah.
yes. This is crazy, Poe. I can't believe the story. This is so much over my head. I wish I could fully understand and have made my own model, because I was just like...
it's okay. Nobody really understands what the hell I'm doing, because they're like, oh, I just use Blender. Like, so many people I see on Twitter are like, I gotta put the model into Unity, my least favorite part. And I'm like, it's the only part that I know. The only part.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah,
Wow.
the if I have a claim to fame, it's likely going to be my particle systems, which I have a video also on particle systems, because I think more people should try to use them if they can on 3D models. And they just, I don't know, they're just scared of using it or whatever. But you'll actually notice that a tremendous amount of my model is particles, like all of the specs within any of the polyhedrons, like the arms, the shoulders, all of these guys, they're all particles. Oh, well, and in fact, this guy actually interacts with my hands, and he can get pet, and so like that's a particle system.
That's
See, all
cool.
these
So
things.
the one going in your stomach, the like little circle guy that comes up, is that a video?
My spine.
Your spine, yeah.
Those are all particles. They are all
Wow.
particle systems that go off at a regular pace, and then they're all tied together. And how those were actually a complicated one, because I needed it to curve, because the spine is actually curved. It's like a curved spine. It's not just straight.
Wow.
So I needed those to follow the curve, which was actually quite challenging. But the specs, the lines that travel, the rings,
cool.
all of the specs in each of the polyhedron, the lightning bolts in and around the spheres, up here at the neck,
Wow.
the drifting. Actually, a lot of the stuff in the head, those are also particles going on in there. You can see,
This is super cool.
and the rings that come out of the orbits that keep my head in place. You can see they all have physics and jiggle, of course.
So I'm learning now that
this
particle
guy.
physics are the way I need to go.
And then this guy up here.
Wait, you got to move to the right. We can't see me because the PNG is
Oh,
in the
sorry.
way. Or see
Right.
you 'cause-
I forgot that you're technically in front of me. Yeah, so like that guy.
Oh,
And he
cute.
interacts with my
Pet.
hand. I can actually, the earring does the same.
that's really cool. I love the earring too. Earrings. I'm a big earring fan.
Yeah, and so one of the things that the additional complication. Oh, hold on. Rex has a question. Is there a reason for moving to the CMYK color primarily? Not honestly, not really. So like I started with sort of the cyan and heavily cyan, honestly. Cyan and kind of red were more my initial color scheme. And generally I find the CMY to be more interesting than RGB, because straight RGB is just kind of flat, right? They're just they're such plain colors seems almost unfair, but fully saturated RGB is boring. It's plain.
Yeah, I mean, it's the basics.
Yeah, but the CMY is more interesting. And so then over time, I started pushing into bringing magenta more in as a meaningful, like, second primary color. So, like, now it's cyan and magenta are both kind of primary colors, and then the yellow is the accent color rather than having too few accent colors, because it was just, it kind of turned flat, and I was like, I need a little bit more going on.
I love it. I think it's very cool. The color scheme is definitely, this one is my fave.
Yeah, I think, and thing is I still, there's actually a lot of stuff that I could do before and that I've actually reintroduced into this model, because this is actually the least complex that this model can be, because I haven't actually talked about any of my toggles, any of the stuff that I didn't even talk about, the fact that I started using Vignon instead of VC Face to actually run the model, which gets way more complicated. So then you start introducing node graphs to do complicated things, because what you may not realize, if you saw, obviously, my stream starting screen, right? All of the particles or movement, all of that is recorded in model. That's just a thing my model can do at any given point in time. And those are, in fact, fully audio responsive reactions to the audio at play. That's just so cool. A thing I can do.
Damn.
So for instance, I can turn on I have two forms. I have particle audio responsive and like the sort of size shape particle responsive. So I just turned on my particle responsive, and it's largely in the ear. If I don't have the wings out. Music? Yes. So these respond, and then this responds to my own mic input, obviously.
Oh, amazing.
And so then these guys react to the music. This is a little bit weird to move because you probably can't hear my music alongside, but
no, I can't, but I'm sure chat can, so it's good.
You can see that these little guys do a little particle generation based on that. So yeah, but like you mentioned the colors, I do still have the ability to change my color. I can switch to random color palettes. It just jumps around.
Disco Po.
Yeah, I can.
For Halloween, this one's good.
I know. I have some ones. I have a dark mode.
Very cool.
A light mode. I can make it go rainbow, and cycle through over time. Lots of color things are all possible and feasible.
Excuse me, goodness.
Oh, bless you. I have some particle tricks as well. These are all stuff that, like, they used to be Twitch redeems back when I was on Twitch. But essentially, I get ideas. I wonder if I can make them work. I do them, and then they kind of never come up because I don't think of ways to just, like, sort of incorporate it. One of my favorite ones that rarely comes up is I can actually write with my fingers in actual 3D space.
This is fun. Wow.
You know, I can.
This would be great
try to
for
draw
like
little hearts and stuff, and then those will go away after a few seconds, and they cycle through a rainbow color as they exist in space. But like those actually are in the 3D environment. I can.
This is fun. This is great for stream ideas. This is why I'm kind of jealous of 3D VTubers. You get a lot of these extra options. You know, like, I mean, because I'm audio based, I'm always playing with Theater of the Mind generally.
Oh,
but, like,
yeah.
This is fun.
But again, like I said, I have talked for an exceedingly long time because I have so much stuff that I can talk about on my model.
It's your thing. I understand.
I know it is. So let's get back to Moo. So what about your sort of design language and design space and how you ended up there?
Gosh, I mean, the way my biggest key element was just doing everything with the same artist, because I was like, that's the most kind of control you can give it if you're someone who isn't an artist and honestly doesn't have like the same knowledge of design that like you might have. My artist, I literally was just browsing and I spent forever looking and I was debating and thinking about artists and I wasn't feeling like I wanted to do super anime girl kind of look.
Sure.
I knew I want something non-traditional. And I kind of was thinking like storybook. Like I was like maybe something softer.
Sure.
I knew ASMR would be my focus. And I thought it might be my only focus. I wasn't sure if I'd get to streaming. But then I was like, no, I really want to do streaming. So whatever. What if I just did something that like really leaned into this and looked different? Like what if I did something different? Like I'd seen some other different looking models and I liked them when they weren't just anime style. And that's why I'm like, I was so interested when I found yours because I was like, oh, look, another one that's just a totally different style. Even if it's not quite my style,
Right.
Not quite, not at all. But anyway, so then I found my artist and she was drawing these little tiny cute chibi animal people, and I saw them and I was like, would you consider doing a human-ish model?
Human-ish.
Yeah, and because also like, so one of the weird things I wanted like a bit more of like a wide nose, like I wanted like I told you I based my character on a furbolg because it's a D&D furbolg druid I had. And I was like,
quick interjection on the subject of furbolgs for all of the degenerates in chat. Do furbolgs have hooves or feet?
Oh yes, I want to hear this because I just commissioned my second model and it won't come for a long time, but like we're looking at least a year, but I haven't decided yet what I'm going to ask for.
Haven't decided.
Yeah, we're going to see, but I keep debating. I'm like, I have hooves. Maybe I have magic and I have feet actually though,
I'll be honest. My vote goes for hooves.
See, I feel like the I know it's just they're more interesting, but it's just the feet. I was also like the feet are classic, but the hooves are kind of fun. I think I'm worried though. I'm gonna look too much like Fern. Have you been watching Critical Role? Do you watch Critical Role?
I'm not super into Critical Role. Rex apparently says that WotC has officials as feet.
Okay.
So I don't really enjoy Critical Role too much because I feel like it's too perfect in a sense. Like it doesn't gel with my experiences of D&D campaigns because nobody gets to have a D&D campaign with such perfect, voice actors
everything.
And like everything is too perfect for me to really enjoy it.
That's fair. That's fair. I enjoy it just as its own like separate sort of very produced D&D piece, but I
like other D&D play like podcasts. I do enjoy that as a concept. They're just like too perfect for me to
that's totally fair.
jump in on.
That's totally fair. Actually, my mod Meow is not a fan at all. Also, Conchu's, hello, good to see you. Conchu's the hooves enjoyer. Okay, we're thinking about it.
Excellent.
Anyway, yeah. So I just went to the same artist and I was like, I want to do these muted pastels. I want to give this feeling of like ASMR as sort of like a healing or like soothing thing because that's really like what it is. And I knew as a streamer, like it's fun to watch as I get more relaxed on stream and be like, I am a little more excitable than I realized, but
that's true.
I'm a pretty even keel person. Like I was like, I'm never going to be the hype streamer,
It's funny. I'm very relating to that because that's one of the reasons that I initially was like, an AI theme is good for me because I'm relatively flat in a lot of things. I have somewhat muted reactions to a lot of things. But similarly, there are certainly some things that you realize when you start streaming. You're like, it's not that bad.
Totally. Yeah, exactly. Like, and I started out and I mean, I did know though that I was like, really, I'm going to be a comfy streamer. Like I'm not winning on gameplay. I don't plan to play a lot of FPS though. My chat wants me to play Dark Souls and, might do Overwatch eventually, so you'll get to see FPS move, but
we'll see. I would love to drag you into some co-op FPS if I could convince you. Like
What
not
kind of-
against other people. Well, see, one of the things that I've constantly been trying to find is somebody to play like the old Halo games co-op with me on stream.
Okay.
And knowing that you mentioned that you started playing games like relatively recently, so like you in FPS history have missed that very formative time for FPS games. It's like it's perfect. You can experience them fresh. I could drag you along.
Sure. And it's funny because I do remember Halo a very tiny bit. I used to play with my cousins,
Hey.
and I just remember I used to go and find like a warthog and drive it around because I found that really fun. And then my cousins would kill me. I was shot practice. So yes, I'm down to try again. That'd be very fun.
Awesome.
But yeah, I was just knowing I wanted to keep comfy vibes, knowing I wanted to keep this storytelling storybook feel based on the content I knew I was going to be creating. I was like, I found this artist who did this art, and I was like, I'm going to stick with this. And I also just thought, now I can see how I could do the anime style more in my style, but at the time I was looking around and seeing like I can't come mainly from like I'm an agency VTuber fan, so
Sure.
I see the very anime style, and I was like, what is there in the indie? Now, the more time I spend in the indie world, like, it's funny. One of my mods was making fun of me for how many how many people I follow on Twitter. Like, I don't have many followers, and I follow like 1,000.
Same.
And it's just because I'm like, I follow anyone who I think is like a little bit interesting or like posts about doing anything. Basically.
Yeah, Twitter is at this point like solely for information gathering on my part. It is so useless for me to post anything. I'm just like, who can I find that's way more useful than anything else I got out of it?
Yes, exactly. And like, that's basically what I'm doing as well. I go on there, I find people, I try to post my schedule, but realistically, people find me through Reddit or YouTube.
I used to post my schedule too, and then I realized like literally no one was coming from that or preparing, like, so I just eventually gave up. One of the things I do prefer about YouTube is the fact that you can schedule your streams. So it's like, it replaces needing a schedule. It's just like, you can see on the channel when stuff's coming up.
Totally. And honestly, I need to be better about doing it because my audience literally talked about liking it, and then I've just been lazy about making thumbnails.
Yeah.
Thumbnails are the bane of my existence, but I'm gonna be better.
I hate them.
Right?
I have like a standardized system at this point. They all look the same. They are all boring, but they all get the job done.
Yeah, I just feel like it's better to just get them out than even worry about them. Like, Moo, you should just do this and then replace them if you don't like them, later
That
in
is
the week.
true.
But like, I'm like, should I do a different one? How do I find a different picture for Outer Wilds? Like, I don't want to go into the game and screenshot it that much, but maybe I should be. I don't know.
Yep.
Oh, it's such a pain.
I just use the damn box art. I'm like, here's the goddamn game we're playing. Get used to it.
Yep. Yeah, look, this is the game we're playing. I know, and I try and come up with little titles, and I'm working a lot harder on my ASMR thumbnails. It's kind of
Yeah.
weird thing with ASMR space is that people just take art from anything and then put it on and like slap it on with a bunch of different women. And I was like, I don't want to just steal art like this.
Yeah.
So it kind of nerfs you. Also, I want it to be associated with my brand. So yeah. Eat the feet. I am a cat. Well, I'm a furbolg. I'm based off of furbolg very loosely.
Cow adjacent.
Cow adjacent druid, we'll just say. Druid with some animalistic features.
So in that space, I am curious because this is a question that I hear a lot of people like to bring up, and I think it is interesting. So now that you've been streaming for a little while, you've been doing your content, like, if we remove your sort of your druid comfy sort of design concept as the character, because honestly it is a perfect match and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But if there were an alternate, like looking back, you'd be like, that would have been a good fit too. Is there like another one that you would have been like, that matches me too?
We've kind of joked around about this on stream because I have Moo and then we have when I'm like a mean person or like more assertive, I guess. And I was very close to going with like a Spider Woman design. And like that's the thing is when Moo has, I say I have two wolves inside of me. I've got like a cottage, oops, sorry, I'm hitting my mic. A cottagecore fairy, and then I've got like a goth vampire, and like my style can be rough to sort of keep up because I like them both so much. And I made the choice to go with this because it made sense with, I think, my audios generally. And I don't think it's not like people mind when I suddenly do like a meaner audio or something like that and are like, this is not on brand. Like they, especially with ASMR, they can suspend the disbelief. But I really wanted to do like a cool Spider Woman and like have like the 8 legs somehow, or like extra arms. I don't know. But then I was like, this is going to cost so much and be so complicated to get done.
There are one, arachnes are awesome. So good choice. 2, I think it's really funny that you mentioned the like goth spider / vampire cottagecore dichotomy, because I'll be honest, That's apparently like a thing. Like that's just
Is it?
if you like one, it really seems like the other one comes along for the ride. I don't know what about like the psyche that those two are connected, but it's so common. I've been in a lot of like VTuber streams and like explored a lot of people, and that is a concept that I have heard a lot.
Really? Okay,
Yes,
I feel
it's-
better then.
I don't know why, but it's really common.
And I just debate it. And I think in my next model, it'll be a little more like, I might have a recolor option or like just a little more mature. I also wanted to convey sort of a bit of a maturity. I think that was it too. Like I see,
Yeah.
a lot of VTubers are leaning into like the hyper, more childish like themes. And I'm like, that's not going to be my vibe.
It comes along with that sort of anime style where, somebody says, I'm ancient in this anime show. And they're like, how old are you? They're like, I'm 22. And you're like, God damn it. What the hell?
Exactly. And I was like, no, I want to be an immortal being who has lived many, many years or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And not look like you're 12 because
Yeah, and I didn't want to. Yeah, I was like, no, I don't want to look 12. I want to be like an adult, thick, 7-foot woman. That's who I am.
perfect.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's what would have been a Spider Woman, but you know what? I'm happy with where Moo ended up. I think
Totally.
it ended up somewhere good for my stream vibes. Because when I think of my ideal stream, it's me like playing Minecraft cozily with chatting.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you? Did you have an alternate other than AI?
Only now looking back, honestly.
Okay.
And I think now looking back, and especially I think if I were to have ended up actually paying for like a live 2D, like a 2D, I think this would be fitting for me. And that is, one, I would still maintain the name Poe, because that's always what I've been called, both on and off stream, and so I can't be bothered to learn to respond to a new name. So I would remain being Poe.
Love it.
But I realize that I lecture a lot. I have something of a professor vibe, I realize.
I can see it.
So what I would likely end up with if I were to totally rebrand, like money's not an option, and got a live 2D, I would be a Professor Raven named Poe.
Oh my goodness. I love this concept. That is so funny.
I was like, you know what? I think that's the way I would go.
Gosh, I love it. That is, I can definitely see it being you. That's a very cute concept. I love it.
I know. I have embraced my professor vibes at this point. Like, every once in a while, somebody tries to come and stream and like claim daddy vibes or whatever. I'm like, I know what vibes we've got here, and it ain't daddy. Sorry. We've got
so
a very
funny.
strong, like...
I feel the same.
If you picture me, you know what you picture? Somebody in a tweed jacket with patches on the elbow. I know. I know what we're doing here.
That is always... No, and I love this self-introspection, because I've always made the joke. I was like, I was called the mom friend for so long, and now I've just embraced it, and I am mommy.
Yeah. Take care of your peeps.
Exactly. And it's also like a really good thing, though, I think, as a streamer, to like know who you are. Like... Or to have a concept of like how others might be perceiving you, and be able to let that inform content or what you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so further questions. So I'm curious about, you've mentioned, of course, several times the ASMR. Obviously, that's kind of your core bread and butter. So something I was wondering, with the ASMR, was that like sort of always your sort of end goal, was like, I want to do ASMR, or was it like, did you have a feel or vibe that you wanted to sort of produce, and like ASMR was the tool to get you there as far as content creation goes?
That's interesting. Okay. It's so interesting because I commissioned my model back in September of last year. Like, we just passed like the 1 year mark where I would have commissioned it. Like, my Twitter had its 1 year anniversary, and I was like, oh my god, okay, I made this so I could contact Dear Hair about my model. And it's funny because I got COVID in October of last year, and I was so physically sore that I got obsessed with listening to ASMR to like distract me from the pain. It's so weird.
Nice.
And that's when I was like, I'm going to make ASMR content. And it wasn't necessarily the plan I started out with. I thought I really like Zatsudan's like chatting streams.
Sure.
And that was what I thought would be my like bread and butter to start. And then I got into this ASMR and I was like, no, I want to do this. And it's crazy. It's really hard to be a content creator and then pick something and stick to it. And that's what I was trying to really force myself to do. But I really had like a crisis of faith as like I went into sort of the holidays, and then February is when I started posting videos, and I was like, I started going on Reddit first. That's where I was doing NSFW audios. And to be honest, between safe for work and not safe for work, I way prefer doing the audio erotica.
Interesting.
I know, which I don't think most people would expect, but I like fully like the ideas are flowing. I can always think of them. And like my biggest problem doing YouTube and why I was so much slower, I think, to make audios for YouTube was because I was like, but I have to cut it off here. Or I have to think of like a creative way to imply or like end it around here. Like, whereas when I was working for like doing Reddit audios, I was like, I've got it. Also, Reddit, you got more immediate feedback. YouTube takes longer to find.
Sure. Yeah, and that's kind of close to another thing that I was going to ask is like with YouTube being so potentially restrictive, but also like so inconsistent in its enforcement of this sort of stuff around ASMR, especially like, like what's your take on that?
God, I wish I even fucking knew. Oh, I've been debating it recently because I saw these like bigger, like I follow like a ton of ASMR channels for research, obviously, and I was just watching like people make decisions and change things, and like I do a lot of like the ear like kissing nibbling stuff that they explicitly mentioned they might start banning.
Right.
And so far I was like, maybe I'll just stay under the radar. I don't know. I love streaming, and I'm happy that I now have a streaming community. So I was like, at worst, I think I'll just like scrub the ASMR if I have to, and then
move
do
it
like
somewhere.
And probably like I do see a Patreon in my future for like
Totally
more
reasonable.
spicy NSFW stuff, and then safer work stuff. I don't know. There's like new platforms all the time, but it is very annoying because like as a tiny new creator who's like just trying to build a brand, I'm like, if you take out a lot of my videos, suddenly I am super nerfed. Like it's going to be really hard for me to bounce back from that.
It's pretty big bullshit. It drives me nuts. Even though in so many of these things that like I'm really unaffected because I've just been really cautious. I don't do reactions. I already have the deal with my music all squared away. Like I'm not like I'm broadly safe for work, though that's not a requirement for my channel. It simply is how it's essentially just my personality. Like that's just that's where I land. The worst is I curse occasionally, but like but it still drives like this inconsistent behavior from these platforms still drives me insane. I think it's just totally inappropriate as the way they handle this stuff, and it just drives me insane.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is that like I was realizing like people were complaining about how like people can make content claims against your videos. The good thing is in terms of like monetization, I'm really like I was reviewing it now that I've hit 1K subs, and I was like, I don't plan to monetize aside from memberships. Like it's just not worth it when you're an ASMR creator, and like
that's fair.
They're ruining ASMR videos with the ads can now be placed anywhere based on YouTube's choice. Like you really don't want that middle of an ASMR video or end of ASMR video. It has to be at the start. So whatever, I was like, maybe I'll get a small amount of revenue that way. And I was like, nope, never mind. Not worth it. Rather just do memberships or a Patreon eventually. And
it's so frustrating. It's those things that are like, it's so frustrating to try to like look at the platforms, and it's so obvious that they're so disconnected from their content creators, and that they're so like, they are the bullshittiest business people at the top, just like working for the freaking investor class, because it's like why ASMR is such a huge corner of content on YouTube, right? Like it's a monolithic thing. Lots of people make it, lots of people enjoy it, and there's like, and it's not the only type of content like this, right? I'm sure there's others that have sort of specific requirements that would just make the content better. Like you say with the ads in ASMR, if you could just somehow be like, this is a video that only can have ads in this position because, and it's like, that would just make so much content better across the board. But all of that power is removed from the content creators, and the platform's just like, we'll let the AI figure it out. And by AI, I mean not me.
Yeah,
I
wish
would
it
do a
was
better
you, it'd be
job.
easier. Exactly. I know, and it's just so frustrating to see and it's crazy because I'm like, these guys are gonna paint the same brush on like, I don't know if you know many ASMR artists, but like Latte ASMR, who does like ASMR role plays that are completely safe for work, like
Right.
the most. And even like my most spicy ASMRs will be judged on the same sort of metric as her, right? Like hers are like hair washing and stuff. Like there is definitely
Yeah.
no, like I know there's an implied like physical response to ASMR, but it's not. I don't think it is inherently sexual. I don't consider it
No,
that.
totally not.
So I was like, it's sad to see that. It's especially sad for people who I'm like, listen, I know I flirt with the line sometimes, so I do have to kind of be, there's some videos if they were like, no, I'd be like, okay, I get it. But weirdly,
Okay.
Poe, my also weird like suspicion is that they actually like the thumbnails are what helps trigger them. So I think because my model is like much less lewd than some of the anime girls they
Not
use.
just like freaking flopping out everywhere. God, some of these.
Yeah.
I have seen. So for those who may not know, I've been streaming for 2.5 years now. So like I've been around for a while, and I have seen some of the wildest ass models go through, and people just like get upset when they're like, I can't believe that I've been suspended because of this model. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, like I'm pretty sure if I zoom in far enough, I can like freaking
See it all. Yeah.
count the hair on your pubes. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah, totally. And I'm like, I think, and especially because like people are using art that like sometimes will be NSFW or like it's very heavily implied something
Yeah.
sexual is happening. And I was like, I think when those thumbnails pop up in people's feeds, I think I'm curious to know if it's more because people report it or if YouTube just has some sort of way of like being like, oh, big tits, probably inappropriate.
Oh, like it's just the big tits flag. It's like a thumbnail with big tits. Better check it.
Yeah, so I honestly do wonder about that, and I'm like, maybe that's it, because I think, I mean, so far I've been fine. The only thing I got flagged for was I had my Reddit link in my bio originally, and they were like,
yeah,
that's sexual content. I was like,
they
never
get up in
mind.
arms about that shit in the description, which is kind of, I guess.
I'm gonna do an all my, because you can do it if it's in your all my links, like, or
Right.
something like that, right?
So
I was like,
for now, until they
now.
start scrubbing those with, AI algorithms to see where all those go. It's
just so annoying because I'm almost like, ASMR gets so many views. Like you can see how well it's doing.
like,
There's like,
we're making them money.
yeah, exactly.
Chill.
It's making you guys money too, okay? Like we're doing all the work and you guys are just profiting off of keeping the system. So why can't you? Anyway, it's something I think about a lot, but at the moment I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it up here and then change when I absolutely have to, and hope that I can grow my YouTube ways so that I'll have enough community to move if I need to.
Yeah, for sure.
Regardless, I actually love streaming. I wasn't sure if I was going to because it is different, and like I love making ASMR. Like I was sort of planning to stream more, and then I ended up doing more ASMR because I had a single stream in February when I started, and it was so sad being alone that I was like, I don't think I can do this at 0.
I assure you, I understand.
Yeah,
I've spent a lot of time at 0 viewers.
Oh, it's rough, Bo. It is.
It's
rough.
hard.
And yeah, and I was like, I'm sure I'll get better at being 0 viewers, but what if I just did ASMR for a bit? And then I did, and I loved it, and I got better at it.
Building community through an alternate sort of video style or some other channel is tremendously beneficial and has obviously, like, it's one of the things that I can obviously see has been one of my challenges because I don't have an alternate sort of stream like that. And, I avoid complaining too much about it because obviously I know that's a big reason why that has been the case. And so it's like, I just choose not to do it because I don't have a clear plan. I don't have time. Like, and it's just, it sucks that that's the way it is, but it is unfortunately the way it is.
Yeah. And both
Also,
of those
hi,
are.
Sorry,
Hello, Kappa. Yes.
That's my
It
sister.
is. Yes.
her
I was
mom.
going to say, I looked her up last night because I was like, this is so cool. It is really hard to like find that and then to do it. And I mean, like, truly with time, it is exhausting. Like, I'm like, trying to keep up with making audios and streaming and doing things. It's so tough. And I am lucky though, because I was like, it's great that I had this content. Also, in retrospect, I'm happy about it because, like, you know, I do like specifically femdom ASMR. So I'm like, that is quite a vein that like I don't necessarily. It's good if people can come from that and be like, and I also enjoy streamers, versus them come enjoy my streams and then be like, ooh, not liking this side of the content. Like, I don't know if I want to be around all this.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah. So
it avoids the annoying disillusion people that were like, I thought you were this way, and then suddenly you put out the video and they're like, oh my god, and, you know,
exactly.
Like, come on, guys, get over yourselves. But that makes a lot of sense.
Like, I'm not super sexual on stream or anything, but like I do like to discuss my audios like to a polite extent, and I'm not interested in like molding my, like, I want people to enjoy me as me. Like, I'm hoping to grow, but not, I want to offer what I am as I am in my niche kind of thing, rather than like modify it to be what is most marketable.
And I think that's one of the reasons that I sort of sensed that I'd be like, oh, I think we could vibe really well, because one of the things that I sort of pick up on like relatively well are like put on personalities, and then I'm like, sometimes if they make it sufficiently effortless, it's like something that I can enjoy watching. But like, I'm way more interested in hanging out with people who are like clearly sort of like streaming just as themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm obviously myself here in the forest with my little LAN connection. But yeah, no, I totally get what you mean, where I'm like, yes, I want someone like that. And it's interesting because I was watching a YouTuber talking about how she made videos these days that she would have liked to watch a year or two ago. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, I do kind of do that. Whereas what I look for, like, some of my favorite streamers were like Nina Kosaka and like Crony or Fauna from like Hololive, and like they're very like chill, mature-ish streamers, you know, who like just are themselves, and that's what I'm looking for. And I was like, you know what, if that's what I like, I should just be doing what I like. Exactly. So I'm glad I do it. I don't know how anyone, if they do, I think some people like put on voices and or choose like a vocal register that they already have to just stay in when they stream, but I couldn't do it. It'd be too exhausting. Like, yeah,
there's some people out there that are like a different breed, I know, because like I know some of them are sort of playing a character to an extent. Some of them do it very well, but some I can kind of pick up on, and I'm like,
yeah,
wow. I mean, good on you for managing it for the ridiculous amount of time, but like, I don't know, there's a certain like sense that I can get of like your voice is, it's not straining, but like I can sense the effort in what you're putting forth, and it kind of like puts me off just a little bit to be like, yes, I don't feel like listening to that. I can sense it in my ear.
Yeah, exactly. 100%, where I'm like, yeah, and I just want to feel like I'm talking to someone. That's what I'm looking for with a streaming experience. Or else I would go for like I go for YouTube videos if I want something that's sort of like condensed and like high energy usually. But if I want a stream feeling, then I want to just what am I trying to say? I want to just feel like I'm chatting with you, or I'm listening to you chat to me while I do something else. So
I agree.
You got to feel very real for me to resonate well with that. And I really don't care what people talk about, you know. It's just like having them talk about something they care about or are interested in, you know.
Yeah. That you mentioned that, and that's one of those like I find a lot of the difference that you just kind of mentioned of you know, feeling like you're talking to somebody and connected. There's also that gap in sort of number of people in a stream too, right? Like a lot of the agency, like the Hololive streamers, I almost never go to their stream live because it doesn't seem to really matter to me, right? Because
you can't really
you're a part of a crowd, like, which
yes.
I will say there is enjoyment to be had there, because there's a vibe that can be really fun in a crowd there, right? Where you've got your in jokes, your emotes that everybody rolls out for certain circumstances, and it's like, it can be fun to be part of a crowd. It's like a sporting event in some sense. But it's undeniably a very different vibe than when you go to somebody who's got that like 10 to 20 viewers just chatting it up, playing your game, like hanging out.
Totally. And I'm really like, it's something I was thinking about, and I was like, I mean, I don't know how much I'll actually end up growing. Like, it's, you know, you sort of grow for a bit and then you usually plateau around a certain point, and that's fine. But I was like, I'm at a really nice point now where, like, you know, some streams when I can get between like 10 and 15, I was like, oh, that's like that's the nice point where you're able
that
to
is
talk.
honestly, that's my dream, like, number. My end goal for what I do is to get a, like, median average concurrent viewership between 10 and 20. Like, that's what I want, because I think it's so good.
It like the nights we've had it and it's really been going, I've been like, this is amazing. Like, it's just very nice. And I mean, especially it's my ASMR streams that definitely bring people out too, unsurprisingly. Sure. And it's just nice to have lots to roll off of, and ideally like when it can get going and you can just pick out like things you want to really hone in on or whatever and keep the comp going. But you know, beggars can't be choosers. So much to say. And like, that's the thing with streaming. I was like, it's crazy to me when I think about some Hololive VTubers and, like, you know, what their experience might have been beforehand and how they just one day like show up and suddenly their chat is completely incomprehensible and they can't even respond to it.
Good
like,
God, yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm so curious. Like, I wish it was possible to interview agency VTubers and talk about the response to that change and how difficult it must be.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that there are several of them that things went sort of beyond expectations, and like they've definitely taken sort of a mental health hit that they're like, they gotta take breaks. I think Gura is one example that I feel like you can definitely see with her having blown up, like the first VTuber to 1 million subscribers, and like just came, you know, just rolled out and was like, well, hi, I'm trying this thing. And then suddenly it's like, by the way, you're the biggest one. It's like,
ever. Yeah. You were a global phenomenon, basically.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy in that sense. And it's very interesting. And I mean, this also speaks to the interesting thing I was going to say, Poe, is that the VTubing space, like, it's now sort of firmly moved into having to understand that it's content creation, not just being a VTuber. Like, VTubing isn't a niche, which is, I see a lot of people like sort of, I don't know if struggle is the word, but like when I was like, I love to do research on this and like look at other ASMR artists and look at other streamers. And I was like, I see this is the biggest struggle now, is that like this used to be a differentiator. And that's how like a lot of people who are giving advice today are giving it as if like it was like that. Like, because we're moving so fast. It's like every 2 years for sure, there's like a huge difference in what it looks like. And now we're really in the sort of, I think you have to think content first. The VTuber is just a medium you're using for it.
It's kind of hit the mainstream, and you're just an alternate form of, you know, streamer or whatever. You're not the new unique neat thing anymore. It's like, oh yeah, you know, you're just one of those guys.
Oh, can I ask you something? So this is something interesting. I think it's pretty obvious for me why I might have chosen to go the VTuber route, given that I do NSFW audios and might not want that associated with me personally. VTubing made tons of sense. I also love in general, like the lore, being able to design a character and stuff like that. Was there a particular reason you got into VTubing? What got you in?
Okay.
And why did you choose to be a VTuber instead of a face cam?
Actually, so a big part of it is, in fact, I'm lazy. Fundamentally, that's a big part of it, in that in a lot of ways I found it to be easier as sort of a launching off point, because I could just do the model, then have the model. I don't have to tidy up the space behind me. I don't have to, you know, keep myself presentable. I don't have to, you know, do constant grooming or whatever before every stream to like maintain sort of that brand look, right?
Yes.
That was a big part of the initial thing. But as Kappa is hassling me about my freaking 1,000+ hour model at this point, it sort of quickly transitioned into like kind of a key part of the expression that I had, right? Like that was like my artistic expression at that point. Yes. Was like it's way more satisfying to me making my own model that I have sort of something to play with, right? Like if you're a face streamer, you have a little bit of branding, you have like a starting soon screen, and you might have an overlay to sort of like express yourself in a sense. And that was just like inadequate at this point. Now that I've done so much with my model, I'm like, I mean, the sky's the limit for me. Like, look at all of the things that I can do. I can experiment with this and that, and like, so I don't really
do so much, like physical stuff. Ah, so cool. Sorry.
There's no strong reason. Like, I have a tendency to be sort of overly protective of, you know, personal identifying information and stuff, despite lots of streamers who just stream with their own damn full name or whatever. And like, that's just kind of like, I don't know, an overly cautious personality, because I highly doubt anything would ever happen to me because, well, I am not an at-risk sort of demographic for people just being dipshits to.
But still, it's fair. It's totally fair to like, the internet's scary. I did say this was like, the internet's scary to be a woman on, and so I can see 100% why people like, and I mean anyone, not just women, but like I was specifically like, you know, I think
let's be fair. There is a higher risk level for women on the internet. We're not gonna freaking sugarcoat that shit.
And anyway, and I also see that, like, interestingly, it's so interesting to me because I remember being so sad when I saw they released like the top 100 streamers on Twitch, and I think, if I'm correct, there were 0 women in it, aside from Critical Role was the top one, and technically there are women in that company. And then I think Pokimane didn't make it into it just because she had put in a donation cap. But I was like, this is so funny to me because, you know, you hear this stuff all the time about how women are like selling, like they just have to be cute and then they can make it so easily. And I'm like, none of them are in the top 100 though, guys. It's all men up here. Like,
yeah, I have some interesting takes on that. I think there is, as with everything, far more complexity to that discussion than
and we're talking about top
given
tier
credit
versus,
for
like, low tier and mid tier streamers where maybe they might see a boost, and that's fair.
But of course, to be fair, most of like the big male streamers I think are absolute dog shit. So
Interesting.
You know.
Ooh.
Well, like XQC, for example, my God, what a garbage fire that is. Like, I have no desire to watch that under any circumstances. I would rather hurl myself from a cliff.
Yes. And that's very interesting, too, because we're also watching streamers who were able to get famous, most of them in the last, like, 3 years when we had a really interesting, unique time period. And, like, we've seen, like, content move so fast. And it's like, XQC was one of the few people who was able to make it on talent alone, but most people really can't just be good gamers and now make it. You know, you got to have that personality or something. And not that he doesn't have personality, but I think people
his personality
have to be better.
Sucks ass. So
I think people now have to be
I won't sugarcoat
better at creating content in order to make it that big. You know, like, so our next generation of big streamers are going to be like very different and more like analytical in how they do things, I think, than like XQC, who just like did shit and then blew up.
Well, see, that's the thing that a lot of times I feel like gets to some degree disregarded, and this is just kind of across the board, which is that there's a sort of like self-perpetuating like momentum machine that starts taking place once something gets big enough, because it's like it continues to be big because it's big, right? Like,
yes, exactly.
It's the popular place to be. It's trendy. It's cool. Like, and so it's hard to say like how you can potentially take advantage of that, or you like what that means. It's one of those things that falls into like, it's just that when a lot of those like advices come up, or when people are talking, it's like, it's all about hard work, and it's like bullshit. But then other people are like, you just have to get lucky, and it's like, well, also bullshit. It's like,
it's very much, and obviously like the answer is always within the gray zone somehow of like, it's doing both. But it's also like interesting, like trying to watch. Poe, I'm curious if you do this as much as I do, but like I watch ASM artists tend to take off really quickly, but they also tend to burn out very quickly and they disappear. And I'm always trying to see like, what is it that I think influenced this like up and down.
So I actually have a hypothesis on something like that, because it's sort of interesting, and I don't necessarily know how it plays out through the whole thing, but like just having sort of observed so much discourse and things on Twitter and lots of streamers and like movement and all of that thing, there's, I think, an element of almost like, I don't have the best word, but I'd almost call it like desperation, or the milder term might be drive, which is usually informed by a degree of desperation. So I feel like a lot of these people who kind of go off are because they have invested too much of themselves in that project, and so they hammer it so hard because of whatever reason, but obviously that's unsustainable, and so they never stop investing too much of themselves in it. But I think there are aspects of that, especially for streaming, that I think people kind of relate to. Like, they see something about it, like they relate to sort of the troubles that they might express in those situations, and like the hardships or whatnot, right? And they get connected to that content, but the person then making the content has already invested too much of themselves, and they continue to invest too much of themselves, and they burn out. Yes. And then there's the also risk that if they end up moderating themselves and bringing themselves back into sort of the sustainable pace, then it's wholly likely that the people who grew attached to that sense of, you know,
urgency. I don't know.
Urgency is an excellent word that they sort of had in their streams, that they drift away because it's like, oh, they just don't have that same spirit they used to, right? I think there's some odd interplay of that goes into a lot of those things that you're talking about, like that.
Yeah. There's also the difficulty that like a streamer is a person, and so ultimately they're going to change, but viewers do not view you changing as gradually as you are existing. So, you know, in 6 months, if you're a very different person than you were a year, 6 months ago, they're going to notice that. And they're going to be like, why did you change or whatnot? And, you know, I think about this a lot because Vox Akuma, I don't know if you're following him at all, but he was interesting to me because I watched him and I was like, how does he get away with doing literal, like, porn ASMR on YouTube? And he said he was going to stop it, and now he's taken it all off. And I was like, this is really, I do feel for him because, you know, and I mean, I feel for him, but I'm also like, no, this man is like, he's made enough money now that he can live forever comfortably. So I know that's a beautiful gift that he will have forever. And I'm happy he has escaped the rat race. But I do feel for him because I'm sure he still loves what he does. And that's going to be such a change in his audience. And like from the business perspective, I'm like, that's interesting to see how he navigates this and grows. And I mean, all of us too, because streaming is right now on the downwind slope after COVID. Like we're not, no one, you know, watching agency VTubers, like none of them hit the same numbers they hit like even a year ago because like in terms of donations, I think it was I was seeing because of, you know, just everyone's out and about. It's post-COVID world now. You know, I don't know where you live, but obviously in the Druid Grove I'm at, like we're finally sort of free. So I get it. And yeah, Goom, sorry, I agree. Also, that's the thing, is the excessively long streaming is no longer a way to grow. It works for XQC, because if people just want to see Shooty Game, he's a known name. But like, if you're a small streamer and you try to just do the excessive streams, like no way. And then a lot of the stuff just then comes into like, with the long streams especially, it's like balancing your visibility to be found, and then you know people's ability to get there. And the visibility thing is a large reason why I left Twitch, by the by. Like that's fair. Yes. Okay. Can you talk about your? I know we're sort of coming to the end, but like, can you talk a bit about your switch from Twitch to YouTube? I mainly went YouTube because ASMR, videos are already there, and then also I was like, I cannot technologically handle having to do two different platforms, so we have one. Yeah.
So I had streamed about almost 2 years on Twitch, and so there were a couple reasons why I ultimately chose to switch. There are certainly advantages to Twitch. Their community interaction tools and engagement tools are certainly a step above YouTube.
Yes.
The issue, of course, is that you actually have to have a chat or a community to then take advantage of those engagement tools.
Right. So less good when you're starting out.
Right. And the thing about Twitch is, from my observation, it can be very difficult to grow from zero because, from what I observed, they don't put your stream anywhere aside from just like directly searching for your category until you have approximately 10 concurrent viewers. As soon as you hit that threshold, you'll realize people are showing up on like people's maybe you'd like they start suggesting streams and ending up at least on somebody's homepage once you hit that sort of magic number, which I think is approximately 10 concurrent viewers. But if you can't hit that line, you are invisible. You are utterly invisible unless somebody is going to the search bar and searching for the game you're playing, or maybe they're searching for the VTuber tag or whatever. And like sometimes you can pull in some people from a raid. Maybe somebody likes to raid other people playing the same game as them afterwards. So like that can help, but like you're just invisible. Yeah. And so after a lot of that time, early this year, I started using shorts, and I was seeing some moderate success in like getting those out to be visible on my YouTube channel, because I'd had a YouTube video. I was just slapping my VODs over. And there was some benefit to using the shorts, although as soon as you start streaming on the channel, apparently it all goes to shit and your shorts stop being useful. So I've stopped making shorts, but that's beside the point. And so like I was essentially like, I can't get anywhere with Twitch. YouTube cannot possibly be worse. And so I went to try my hand there / here.
Right.
So then the second main reason is actually a technological reason. So I realized on Twitch has a hard cap to the bandwidth you can use, which is 6 megabits per second for stream.
Right.
It's a hard limit, and
that's weird.
It's very low. I realized the more visually complicated I made my model, the shittier my stream looked, because it got worse and worse at compressing the stream when my model was chaos.
That is, oh gosh.
So, like, my last streams over there are so blurry, despite all of my efforts to try to, you know, bump it down to 720p, stop using 60 frames, go to 48, like, all kinds of stuff I tried to make happen. Eventually, I came over here because the cap is at 50 megabits per second, which is almost 10 times as high.
That's crazy.
As well as then you can, through use of the latencies, so like I stream at low latency. Most people I would suggest to stream at ultra low, but I stream at low because it allows me to stream at 1440p, 60 frames per second. So I actually stream at a higher resolution than is possible on Twitch.
Right.
Which just gives me a dramatically better visual quality to my streams, which was always important to me because I got just so annoyed that I'm like, I worked so hard on this model and it looks like ass on Twitch.
Yeah, 100%. This is like your passion. Like, and I mean, anyone's model, like I know everyone always says like audio comes first technically in like eschewing viewers, but especially when your like model is something you've made and is cool and like, your art is a lot of your content. Like, yeah. Ugh.
Well, and your note about the audio, that is true. And so this is actually one of the little complexities that I think people who say like, oh, women have an advantage, and then there's the fighting of no, they don't. It's like there are sort of like 3 phases to getting a new viewer, right? And I think it's step 1 that is getting people to click via the thumbnail. That's the key place that women have the advantage, because people are just like, oh, I'll click into that, which then moves into the second phase, which is your audio has to be at the very least not sufficiently scuffed to drive somebody away. So this is the like position that you can drive somebody off immediately. And then the third phase is actually being entertaining enough to keep them long term. And so it's like, there is, I believe, a position that women have an advantage is, and it's getting people to even give your stream the time of day. Like that, they do have an advantage there, but that of course comes at a cost with freaking creepos on the internet. So like, I'm not going to say that that's like a good trade-off, but I'm also
but it's just
not
a trade-off that exists right now.
Yeah, I'm also not going to say that they don't have an advantage in some ways.
Totally. Yes, I agree. You're right. You're right for sure. There's like, I mean, just in general, the cultural concept of women as muse and things to be looked at,
Yeah.
like, is obviously going to affect things like streaming. Also, I mean, and this is what I was saying, like, in terms of like feminine design with VTubers, that's why, because we have made masculine, like, fashion and design and look so boxed in and rigid, like,
Yeah.
And I mean, you certainly can be exploratory as a male VTuber and things like that. I mean, like, your model's exploratory, not in the way I was imagining, but you could do really weird fashion and like funky headpieces too. But there will still be like a sense of like that'll be avant-garde rather than just being where is it like women with like weird like tit windows and like strange cool costumes and like stuff like that. It's like no, that makes sense. VTubing woman. That's what they're like.
Yeah. And it's all of that is a large. Was also sort of informing of my design, which is why like my design is as eye-catching as it possibly could be. Like there's no way that I could make my model any more distracting than it already is.
Truly an electronic peacock.
Part of that is in fact to get any kind of interest on the thumbnail for people to be like, okay, I gotta check. Like that is part of the incentive in doing that. 'Cause I'm like, well, I'd have to click on this and be like, what the hell is that?
Exactly. No, and that's 100% what happened to me, Poe, because I'm trying to remember if I found you on Twitter on YouTube first, but I just remember I saw your mom and was like, no way, like, look at this is so cool. And then I was like, okay, good. And he also is like a good streamer that I'd enjoy watching. Like,
yay.
Very cool. Yeah. But that's it. That's the first click. And then also, yeah, the audio for sure. Like, I can't stand, because I think a lot of VTubers will do this thing where they do like visual first. I'm like, you can't do that. I know you think you can because you have a cool model, but I've seen there's someone, I can't say it because it's too rude, but there's someone who has the most insane model, like a dream model for me, and I just tuned into her streams and I was like, oh no, like the audio quality, it's fine, but like she's just very like, but it's okay. I'm trying to be like, you know what, people are at different spaces. I started this and I was like, immediately I want to grow. I'm like coming at this kind of in a business-ish mindset. But some people just come as a hobbyist where they're like, I just think that'd be fun and I want to learn, and that's a process. So that's fine. I just hope she doesn't get discouraged, because everyone, like, you can see the difference between like your Twitter gets huge when people like your model, but then you'll see how it actually translates to followers, because I certainly see how if you are already a good content creator and then you get an amazing model, blow up easy. But if you are, even if you have the most amazing model, if you're a mediocre to bad like content creator, it won't save you. It'll give you a like push at first and then it'll fall off,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it does matter. Yeah, it's just so interesting. Oh, JoJo, yes, let's do it. Boom, I like it. Sorry, that's the male drip.
It's true, and like that's something that I feel reasonably strongly about, is just like the idea of restrictions around like what people get to wear, or what is this, what is that. I'm generally opposed to.
Oh yeah, for sure, me too. But
it's like, well, with my flags up here, I'm sure folks noticed it. Like my black and white and green one up here, that's the agender flag.
Agender, okay, cool. I was like, the green and white one I haven't seen before.
Yeah,
agender,
so
cool.
that is because I am ideologically a gender abolitionist, which
wonderful.
Is, largely opposed to the idea that men can't do something because of like, men can't wear this because they're men, and women can't do that because they're women. I'm just ideologically opposed to, and I would, if in my ideal world, which is never going to happen until long after myself, would be that nobody actually uses gender as a meaningful distinction because it's not relevant.
Yeah. Oh man, I agree, Poe. Not to get us too political, but I'm like so there with you. And I mean, I hope. Yeah, I'm always like, listen. I think it's always something you kind of play with when you're like thinking about like sexual power dynamics and like dom stuff. Like, so I think about it a lot in a lot of different ways and how gender intersects with. Anyway, this is a long conversation we cannot start now because I can hear my dog barking. But
right,
yeah, go Poe. I love it. I was gonna say, I forgot to ask. Do you have, what pronouns do you like? I use she/her.
So it's, well, as a gender, I really don't give a shit. Is essentially the answer.
Okay.
Broadly speaking. most defaults are going to be he, him, because obviously my voice is a masculine voice. So, like, that's fine. I just do not give a shit. I have been, like, amusingly, in real life, I have likely been misgendered more than the vast majority of people. For just I'm pretty slim is essentially what it comes down to. I'm slim and I actually have long hair, so people come up behind me and misgender me all the time, and I do not give a shit because it's just not important. To me. Other people, it can be important to, and that's entirely appropriate. But from my perspective, I do not give a shit. So, by all means, you can use he, him, since that's probably the most natural based on my voice, and that's totally fine. But you can also use they if you prefer. You can use it. That's fine too.
Okay, I'm always worried about it because, well, no, that's not true. I know there's like a large like set of people who enjoy using it, but I'm always like, oh, I worry about the dehumanization of marginalized groups and thinking about like using that language and then signaling to others it's okay. But it's, the context matters.
Yeah. Ultimately, my answer is I don't give a shit. Like that. Yeah. That's how I fall into agender. I am agender because I don't identify with gender as a concept. Therefore, I don't even identify meaningfully with agender. I just do not give a shit.
Right. Abolitionist. Like it. Very nice. This is awesome, Poe.
Which is another thing that the AI kind of works out for as the theme, because I'm sort of, at least visually, androgynous.
Yes, totally. Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you can do whatever you want. That's the fun with VTubing too. Is there's really so much like gender fuckery you could engage in, and it gives people the tools to do that. Like trans people or people like. It's difficult because when we have like talks about appropriation and culture and things like that, especially in the VTubing space, I'm like, I feel like gender is like one where we kind of have to be extra open to because gender belongs to everyone in every capacity.
Right.
In that sense.
I will say that there are some potentially nuclear hot takes that I have in that scene, and I largely leave them aside because it doesn't ultimately matter, I guess, what my take is, and I'm just not out here trying to drama farm to be like, hot take, blah, blah, because I just don't give enough of a shit, ultimately. Yeah. And, the driving axiom is to keep people from being harmed. Like, that's...
Yes, exactly.
That's the driving axiom, and so in a lot of cases, the hot take that I may have doesn't really matter, but I can at least... But I tend to view things in a larger sort of systemic way than many.
Totally.
I think broadly, an AI, blah, blah, blah. So I a lot of times have takes that sort of try to look beyond an individual circumstance and look at where we should be going as a system, and those can really ruffle feathers sometimes.
That's fair, and it's interesting, yeah, because I feel like I feel like we're going so philosophical, but an interesting push I feel like recently has been to like think more from the emotional and individual side of things, and then because we haven't before, or we've come from like there's been such a drilled in, like, at least when I was growing up, of like, we have to be logical about this, and like logic is the only way we can find value in things, and like thinking in like a patriarchal structure of like what we need to value, and it's like, but what if we valued things that were scientifically feminine, and that was like the emotive side of things, which I think has ended up being more like individual. If we're hurting someone, it's bad, but you're right that there's totally
right, but it's like, are they are they right to be hurt, right? It's like,
yes.
Maybe like them being hurt and then ultimately sort of moving beyond that can lead everyone in the future to be less hurt. If we can, like, that's the thing, right? It's like, there's a thing of like, is this wrong? Is a question many people sort of ask, and then they're like, well, yeah, this hurt somebody. And then the question becomes, should it be wrong? Like, should they be hurt? And it's like, well, if you think about it fully, maybe not, and we have to, as like just a collective society, we kind of have to like all work together to it's like stop. Part of, yeah, it's
a process.
It can get complicated for sure.
Very complicated. Anyway, this is good. This is fun. We're gonna have more fun chats, Poe. Probably a lot off stream.
That's entirely possible. Yeah.
But this is great today. I'm sorry, I can hear my dog barking, so I'm going to depart soon. But we have Halo on the horizon now, right? Or, and I don't know.
I'm happy to participate in Phasmophobia.
Sick.
I'm thrilled because I've been sort of itching to find additional sort of like regular streamers and such to like get collabs going with, because like I play with my sister Kappa here, but that's
Hey.
kind of it been lately. Like I have some other people I play with, but they are less able to be consistent for a variety of reasons, and I'm just like I need people who are like who are like, yeah, we're gonna do something, and then we can jump on and like, yes, finally.
Yes, exactly. No, but we definitely have to also, because I don't know. I'll see how it ends up going, but end of October, I want to do like some horror theme stuff and Phasmophobia for sure, but maybe some other stuff. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
I'll let you know.
broadly speaking, here I am attempting to drag you into games that might be somewhat out of your comfort area, but I am also like, because you mentioned off stream the idea of maybe interviews for other content ideas or whatever, and it's like I am open to sort of finding other ways that we can sort of I'm maybe do something that's like out of my comfort zone to sort of mesh more into your
Sure.
bread and butter style, right? Like I don't do ASMR, but I do have a relatively sound like a narrator voice. I can read a story pretty well.
Yeah.
I've got that. That's like the one thing that I've got going for me as like voice acting, is like I can narrate and I can read a story.
Wait, you know what? And like coming from a bit of radio and VA, like every voice has a space for certain.
Sure.
So it's just figuring out, like, I think there's a benefit to, you can choose to be in whatever space you want, but figuring out where your voice might be able to shine the most. And I can certainly see it in narration. So, chat, I think I've told you about this for the ones of you who know me, but I'm thinking about trying to find some way to like bring people into making their own ASMR and like guiding them through that process or something. And I'd kind of pitched something like that to Poe, right? That was what I'd said. Like,
You had thrown out the idea of like our first stream being like just on stream jumping in and trying to set something up for like an ASMR. I was like, okay, hold on now.
I was like, I just didn't know. I was like, are you someone who wants to do an activity with someone, or are you someone who wants to like chat or what? But I think that we have enough to talk about that. Like the chat worked very well.
Yeah, but broadly speaking, I think it could be fun to sort of explore my own sort of edges of the comfort zone and trying to do some other sort of content, because I hate recording shit. Like that's one of the reasons that most of my videos are just streams cut up a little bit. But I feel like it's a lot more tackleable if I were working with someone on like a shared goal, right? Like
Totally.
so if you were trying to
100%.
tackle
And
something, I think that could be
the
fun.
point of it isn't even for you to like put out something beautiful at the end. The point is for you to have some like to have some fun and some laughs, and like just I think it's also interesting, like people seem to enjoy seeing behind the curtain, as we've said. So
Yeah.
it's fun to be like, this is what I think about when I'm scripting. You don't have to include this, but this is where I would go. And anyway, things to think about. So it could be fun in future. We've got ideas for sure.
Yeah. I'm sure this will not be the last time that our chat compatriots here find us together.
Yes, totally. I'm very excited.
Excellent. Me too.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, but it sounds like you need to go.
I do. I'm sorry. My
rescue
dog is
the
now...
doggo. Hey, my freaking subscriber alert actually worked.
Hey, that's fun.
UK? UK? Well, welcome regardless.
Yes, ASMR masterclass. Maybe I should do that. Yeah, that'd be fun. A fun thing to do, actually. Anyway, we'll see. But yes, I'm sorry, I must depart. My tiny old decrepit dog who's on the verge of death is calling for me.
Poor cranky dog. I understand. My dog also is getting up there in age. He's got to be on that pain meds regimen to keep his hips working and all that good stuff now.
We just found out we have to drug him super heavily so he can get his hair cut because he's just developed like a hatred. Anyway, it's fun. Oh, Conchus, I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was very fun. It's you're my first collab.
Yay! Awesome.
Well, thank you for having me, Poe, so much.
Yes, thank you so much for coming. And of course, thank you everyone in chat for coming. Thanks for chatting and listening. I know we didn't really take too many questions. We had a few, but thanks for being here and participating and listening to us ramble about all kinds of shit.
Yeah, it was lovely.
Yeah, but we'll I guess do you have anything you want to let everybody know, like your next stream time or anything?
Nothing. B, if you want to join moo_Chanterelle, CHANTERELLE. I should have made that an easier spelled last name, but here we are. Come check out my channel or join my Discord, because next week's going to be a little weird, but the rest of October we're going to be having some fun Halloween streams. So I hope I can see you there.
There should be a link in the title of the video.
Awesome.
She should be properly added. So if you go there, you can join her in future. As for me, I should be back probably playing more Lies of P on, I think, Tuesday. You'll see it. I'll get it up probably tomorrow. But Tuesday evening, back for more Pinocchio murdering everything that gets in his way. It'll be great.
Exciting. I can't wait.
All right. Thanks, everybody, and bye.
Bye.
Initiating goodnight sequence. Dispersing appropriate dosage of compound 347. Initiating phase 1 of memory calibration. This won't hurt a bit. Just close your eyes.